Hello and welcome to Avyan IAS Academy. Today we will talk about the utility of the future tenses, and as we are continuing it from our last video lecture where we had talked about the utility of the past tenses. In the first case, when we talk about the simple future tense, that is action, generally it is used to talk about things which are not in our control. I shall, for example, when we say I shall be ready by then. So these are things which are not generally in our control, or I will go there, he will be there, they will do this or that. So that is a simple future tense. Also, when we believe that something will happen, is about to happen, or we expect it to happen, we generally, the future tense is used with phrases like I believe, I expect, I believe she will top the class, I expect that they will come to the party, such other things. Again, it is about things over which we do not have complete control, and that is why it is coming in the future, and about something which we are speaking and deciding at the same time. For example, she is busy at the moment. All right, I will wait, or I shall wait. So when you get, for example, you reach to a place and somebody tells you that if you ask for meeting someone and they say that she or he is busy right at the moment, and then you say, all right, I shall wait. So while you were in conversation, you decided to wait for the person. So hence, when we decide to do something while already in conversation or speaking to someone else, we would also be using the simple future tense. Now coming to going to or about to. What is the utility of these two? This also talks about something which is going to happen or is about to happen, but in the imminent future. For example, when we say I am going to go, the difference between the sentence I shall be ready by then and I am going to go is that here there's a lot of uncertainty about the fact whether you shall be ready or you will not be ready to do something or take up some work or action. But in this sentence, when you say that I am going to go, it's like already you're preparing to go. Maybe you are just getting up and you will be leaving the place in a certain point of time. So that the imminence of the future is much nearer to something about when you say I shall or he will. So that there's a not exactly sure maybe, but there's a lot, I mean the surety is more than when we say something by using a shall or the will, that's I'm about to go. And when we use the word about to is generally used when something is just at the point of happening. For example, how we will talk about to. About to would be, look, the clouds are about to burst into rain. So hence this is something that is just at the point of happening. You are asking somebody to look at the cloud because it is just about to rain. So or maybe when we say a sentence like the Prime Minister is about to visit the country, the President is about to take up the meeting from the committee. So these are things which although talks about the future, but it talks about with a lot more permanence than when we use sentences about shall or will. Shall or will would talk about something about which we are not at all sure, but we expect it to happen, or we believe that it will happen. So that is the difference about using going to and about to. And also, however, when something is being planned, for example, as I had told this while I was taking your classes on the present tenses, for example, something that is a part of the fixed schedule, like the plane arrives at 10. Although this is about to something that is clearly indicative of the fact that this is something that hasn't yet happened, will happen. But since this is a part of the fixed schedule, maybe that happens every day or alternate days, we will be using a simple past tense, simple present tense. We will not be taking the help of the future tense here, since it is a part of the fixed schedule. So when things are happening about with a certain uncertainty is when we will need to use the future tenses. But if we know the part of the schedule is planned and will happen, we will be taking just a simple present tense, or going to or about to when it is very much imminent in the future. Next utility is in the future continuous tense, when we talk about any action which will be in progress in the future. For example, I shall be eating then. You are talking about an action which will be in progress in the future. That is why it is a future continuous. The action will be happening in the future and the action will continue happening in the future. That is the reason. Hence it's also known as continuous or progressive. As we were talking about in the future continuous tense, about a thing which has already been planned, will be taking up the future continuous tense. For example, I shall be planning to be there, or he will be eating then. Right, there's something about which you have a plan that you will do it in the future, hence, and the action will continue in the future, hence it is taking up the future continuous tense. About the next that we come up to is the future perfect tense. Future perfect tense talks about actions which would be completed at a certain point of time in the future. Example, he will have worked there for 5 years by May 2022. So the action has not yet happened. It will happen at some point of the time and will be completed at the certain point of time. Hence it is being talked about in the future perfect tense. And the last tense that we come to for today is the future perfect continuous tense. It talks about an action or progress which will be continuing at the certain point of time and will be completed in a certain point of time in the future. This is probably the most uncertain of the tenses that we can say, and it's not always used quite a lot. However, since if we have to talk about a progression, see, we are as such in the first place not sure about if that is happening in the future, and then there's one more level of uncertainty to the fact whether it will be happening and also it should be continuing at that point of time. For example, I shall have been doing my work for 30 hours tomorrow, or I shall have been reaching that place in the expected time or in a while. So it is something when you tell about an action which would be happening but in the future. Hence probably this is one of the most improbable of things that you can talk about, but still following the rules of grammar we do utilize this also. So in a quick recap of all that we did today was we talked about how we can use the future tenses in our sentences and how the first one that we talked about was the simple future tense, and the simple future tense is mostly about uncertain things and how that is different from using going to or about to. It is different because it talks about a little more certainty than it talks with for the future tenses. So, and another thing that we did was when something is a part of the fixed schedule but is still about to happen in the future, we know it hasn't yet happened, but we would still be taking up the simple present tense because it is a part of the fixed schedule. The next would be the future continuous tense, about an action which would be continuing at a certain point of time in the future. And then comes the future perfect tense, which talks about a completion of the action in the future. And then the future perfect continuous tense is action which is in progression at that certain point of time but will come to an end, that too in the future. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for more updates.